Socom 3 added vehicles, more customization, larger levels, and so much more. So why then do so many Socom fans hate this game? It's got a respectable 82 on Metacritic, compared to Socom 2's 87. Now I'm not a math guy, but those numbers are pretty close. And yes, I remember enjoying the game as a kid, playing online especially. But that score is completely undeserved, and those fond memories deserve to be left in the past. Replaying the single player campaign today, and wow, this is an awful Socom game. So let's dig through the campaign, gameplay mechanics, and deep dive into what went right, and more importantly, how much of it went wrong. The game kicks off like the second game, with a cutscene that sets up the story. A dictator wannabe has risen up and is using his forces, called the Northern African Alliance Patriotic Front. I don't know. Honestly, who cares? I bet their flag has a sword on it when it should have a dragon. Good for the Welsh. Anyway, during a public speech, he pulls a 300 "This is Sparta" and executes a diplomat before marching his army towards another nation's capital. The game doesn't state which nation exactly, but I bet their flag has a sword on it when it should have a dragon. Now I've started this off pretty negatively, but it's gonna get worse. Before it does though, when you boot up the game and that classic Socom theme song hits you, damn, never gets old. If you sit at the main menu for too long, which you will because then a trailer for the game will begin playing. And this is a subtle clue on the biggest issue with the game, which is to say it's an action game. Explosions, high-octane firefights, drive-by shooting with vehicles. Oh, we'll get to the vehicles. Socom 3 is an action game first and foremost. Tactical shooter, like in the back. Way in the back. It'd be like if I started covering Xbox games. Hey guys, welcome to my Blinks Let's Play. Remember to like and subscribe. See, it doesn't work, no matter how good Blinks is. First mission and we get the old SEAL team back, but they never really had a character to them, so it's whatever. Your squad is out preparing for a reconnaissance mission when they get word about an upcoming attack. The mission is scrubbed, as you and your team race to an extraction point in order to tackle this new threat. This level acts as a tutorial, and the problems with the game become obvious right away. Now, I don't know the inner workings of game development, but this game feels so different from 1 and 2. The movement is more loose, which some might think means fluid, and like, it's a good thing, but what I mean to say is that it lacks the precision that is commonplace in the first 2 games. It's not the worst, but it is a noticeable downgrade. This can be okay in any other third-person shooter, but this is supposed to be a tactical shooter with hints of realism, where one bullet can mean the difference between success and failure. I want every footstep to be intentional and not feel like I'm fighting the controls as much as the enemy. Normally, I'd feel silly complaining about this because it's still a bit above average compared to third-person shooters as a whole on the PS2. But they already perfected this in the first 2 games, so why is it worse here? That doesn't make sense to me. Either keep it the same or improve on it. That's what every sequel should aspire to do. I understand if we're discussing something more subjective, like a story, but mechanics like controls, those are fairly universal on what's liked and what's not liked. No one's playing a Gran Turismo game and thinking, wow, these cars just don't feel right. You can say realistic driving isn't fun for you, but they're 90% of the way there. Socom 1 and 2 were also 90% of the way there, but now they're just stumbling with Socom 3. Like in the previous games, you can still mantle over certain objects in the game world, which does come up pretty frequently. And as much as I'm ragging on the game, it does do verticality extremely well, like Socom 2 did, but it's even better here. Also, enemies can, and often will, fire at you from above, which keeps you on your toes. Of course you can, and should, do the same to them. If Star Wars taught me anything, it's to not underestimate the advantage of having the high ground. Though the AI in the series has never been that great, and Socom 3 is no exception. It's largely unchanged from the first 2 games. Not great, but not the worst either. It's about a 4 out of 10 in my opinion. I do like their animations though. If they're injured, they'll limp around until taken out. A nice touch you don't often see in games. Zipper also introduced a new swimming mechanic, which is what it sounds like. You can now swim. It doesn't occur super often, but it does break up the game's pacing along with the new vehicle system. Put these together and you're never doing the same thing for very long, whether that be sniping, sneaking, piloting a vehicle, swimming, or climbing. While swimming, you can briefly go underwater to keep yourself from being spotted by enemies. There's a bar that'll tick down next to your name. Once it drains completely, you'll automatically come up for air. It's a simplistic system that doesn't come up often, but it's still a welcome addition to break things up and add some depth to the game.
Mount up.
Aye, aye.
Spectre, board the vehicle and proceed with your mission.
So I mentioned the vehicles, and I need to mention them again, because they play a huge role in Socom 3, and are largely responsible for why this game moved away from tactical stealthiness into what's basically a Michael Bay film. There are trucks with mounted machine guns, Humvees with mounted machine guns, buggies with mounted machine guns, and even boats with mounted machine guns. It's a bit silly, and while I love the idea, I hate the execution. Though I can't think of what would have worked better. Socom has always been a stealth-orientated shooter, which naturally conflicts with introducing vehicles, which, you know, tend to be a bit loud.
Tango in motion! Nice job neutralizing that first patrol.
It's not like they had a bunch of electric vehicles to use in the early 2000s, which makes me wonder if their silence is actually a really good use case for the military. Anyway, that's off topic. Point is, I don't like what's here, but I also don't know how to fix it. I think there was ultimately two opposing directions Socom 3 could have gone. Either what they did, which is way more action, loudness, explosions, basically a dumb Hollywood movie with only the faint remnants of the series' roots left. Or go even harder into the stealth niche, introduce planning phases like Rainbow Six, maybe operation phases and splitting up the team to tackle more complicated missions, customizing clothing or choosing missions perhaps, maybe even more of a focus on story. I mean, Splinter Cell was blowing up at this time, so it would have made some amount of sense. I can see how that'd conflict with the real focus of the series though, which has always been the PvP multiplayer, though I also don't think they're mutually exclusive. All this to say, I'm disappointed Socom took the casual, mass appeal route. Was it the right call financially? Well, the series was steadily declining in sales with every new entry, so probably. Socom 1 actually sold like crazy, with Wikipedia and VG charts estimating 2 to 4 million copies sold, making it one of the best-selling PS2 games. Socom 2 sold about 2 million copies, just barely, and Socom 3 sold about 1.5 million. Sony and Zipper were getting desperate as the series continued, so it's hard to fault them for going for more mass appeal. Socom, in a lot of ways, was Call of Duty before Call of Duty, as it mainly appealed to and was purchased by frat boys and dude bros, men aged 20 to 35, who enjoy traditionally masculine things like shooting shit with guns and being bisexually curious. Don't ask, don't tell. All this to say, I'm not sure if the core Socom audience was ever interested in the more nitty-gritty details of tactical games. Most played it for the PvP and the community that it provided. There was a clan system, a server browser, and even a ranking system. People played it like Madden matches. They'd hop on after work, play a couple hours with the same friend group, rinse and repeat. These were not people who were sweating over insertion points or double-checking details of an operation, like a Ready or Not player. It wouldn't surprise me if there was little to no overlap between Socom fans and Tom Clancy fans. But still, it's painful to see the series lose what made it special with each iteration. Socom 3 in particular feels more like a Battlefield game than it does a Socom game. It's fine when viewed through that lens, it's just not what I'm looking for. Now, it's not all bad, just most of it, so I do want to highlight a great new feature. The squad loadout system has been greatly expanded and improved upon. You can still choose you and your squad's equipment, the primary, secondary, and auxiliary slots, and there's more gear to choose from. But now you can also customize your guns as well. Rather than choosing between an M4 with or without a suppressor, you now have 2 slots per primary weapon. An attachment will take up one of those slots. Options include suppressors, scopes, grips, bipods, and lots of other fun toys. Your secondary has 1 slot, so you can throw on a laser or suppressor for your pistol. But Zipper added another great and super smart addition to this mechanic. You now have to be aware of your total weight load. Unlike the American police force, each SEAL has a weight limit they must stay under. Carry too much and you'll be so slow it's basically unplayable. This is a small but impressive change, considering action games weren't as RPG heavy as they are today. The only games at the time with encumbrance were, of course, RPGs. Sure, you can bring an M60 and lay down a ton of firepower, but that doesn't leave room for much else. This is a cool system, until you learn the M16 with a red dot and laser sight is totally broken. It bumps your accuracy up to max, and with it, there's really no reason to use any other primary. Sure, you can miss with the M60, or you can just fire 3 or so shots to down a guy with the M16. I remember this being an issue in the multiplayer as well. To say the game is unbalanced, well, that's a bit of an understatement. Of course, since this is single player we're talking about, it's not the end of the world. You can and should experiment with different weapons and configurations. I mean, there's over 30 guns, and they are pretty different from each other. So give them a shot, pun intended, and see which one you like. The attachments are also unique to the guns, which makes them even more unique. I need to stop saying unique. Anyway, the M8 assault rifle has an airburst launcher attachment too, which can't be placed on any other gun, for example. Speaking of the M8, it's neat seeing the guns we thought would be used in the future of warfare. Of course, the M8 project was ultimately shut down, but seeing it in games like Socom and the Tom Clancy series, it's a fun time capsule. It's got a really distinctive look, if nothing else. After completing the game, you'll unlock every gun, including those used by the enemies. This has been the Socom MO, so it's nice to see it return here. Unlike in previous Socom games, 3 added a checkpoint system, and to be frank, I'm not sure why. I guess other games were doing it at the time, so the devs felt like Socom needed it. I don't know, it seems super out of place, especially when you consider that most levels can be completed in under 20 minutes, even if you go full stealth. When I played, it was like 10 minutes per level. But the checkpoint system not only does what you'd expect, allow you to continue the level halfway through, rather than at the start, but it also refills your health and ammo. This single change strips the game of most of the tension, because you don't have a choice in the matter. On your last leg, with your last mag, with only one more building to clear? Oh, don't worry, we'll get you right as rain to ensure you finish the level. God forbid there's any kind of stakes in your tactical shooter. Yes, it is frustrating to restart the level after death, for the successes to feel earned. At the very least, why not just tie this system to the difficulty? Like, on easy, it works as it does, you have the checkpoints, but on the harder difficulty levels, it reverts to classic Socom no checkpoint system. You can think of it like an Iron Man mode. It feels like a modern system that's shoved into a game simply because it's modern, without any thought given as to why or how it would better the experience. Another change, but this time for the better, is the addition of the Crosstalk system. If you had a PSP, you could connect it to your PS2 with a USB cable, and if the game supported it, you could share saves and unlock bonus content in one or both of the games. Usually this means an extra weapon unlock or a multiplayer skin, but in the coolest instance, a convoy wouldn't appear in Socom 3 if you completed a bonus objective in the PSP game Socom Fireteam Bravo. This sounds amazing, and it was, when it was a thing, but there's the problem, it was never really a thing. It even continued on into the early PS3's life cycle, but only about 30 games or so had the feature at all. That's not a lot when you spread it across 3 platforms. It was a really cool idea, but it took so much work to implement. Although it did incentivize people to buy more Sony products, at the end of the day, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. But that was back in the early 2000s. Maybe a similar system could work better today, now that it's easier for our games to be connected via the internet, whether we like that or not. Regardless, I highly recommend the Golden Bolt's video on the subject. He covers it in a ton of detail. You can find a link to that video in this video's description. As you go through the first mission, you'll be given instructions on how to play the game, and introduced to the new mechanics in Socom 3. This is very in your face, since this first task is to commandeer a Humvee and fend off an ambush. You're also introduced to the voice command system, which works the same as the prior two games, with the same commands being carried over, although the UI is a bit different. And can I just say, I'm a big fan of the wiggly antennas, they're fun. Anyway, you drive down to the beach, try out some sniping, swimming, and board a boat with a comical amount of firepower. I mean, 2 miniguns and a grenade launcher on the back? Is this SOCOM or a Call of Duty level? There's no better illustration of this than the very first level. The Humvee is whatever. You want the game to start off intense, so I get it. But once you breach the city, you grab a turret and fend off a tank while a helicopter can swoop in to save you. Seriously, what the fuck happened to SOCOM? And I still got a 72 stealth rating? Are you high? Let's just calm down, take a breather. It was only the first level. Let's give the game the benefit of the doubt and see where it goes. Okay, we're on the second level. Another vehicle. It's not a great sign, but buggies in the desert are cool. What the fuck? SOCOM's COD before COD was COD. Let's just try to have fun. A convoy will pass by a nearby road, so we head there to set up an ambush. It's not really stealthy, but it is tactical, I suppose. It's also something different, and a good ambush is always fun. So you know what? It gets my seal of approval. It's certainly more appropriate for a SOCOM game than doing donuts in a buggy while mag dumping enemy technicals. Continuing this trend is a little fort nearby that we need to clear out. I like this, and it actually plays to the strengths of the larger maps. You can approach this fort straight on, or sneak in closer through a nearby lake. Player agency is one thing that open games can and should take advantage of, so it's really nice to see it here. There's a gap in the wall if you head to the back, which also encourages you to explore. Again, great to see. But after clearing out the fort, you have a problem. You need to head to your next objective, but like I just said, the map is pretty large. Well, you can walk, of course, or use a nearby vehicle. This makes you feel like you're playing GTA, kinda. I don't hate it. It's different, but it's not better or worse. Just different. Destroy a radio tower. Meet with an informant, which gives me PTSD from the last game.
I'm looking for the sand lion.
And I am the king of the desert.
And it's mission 2 complete. What effect did this have? Well, our dictator friend from the start was sending his forces into a nearby country in order to invade it. We halted this advance. For now. This might be inspired by Operation Desert Storm and the US stopping Saddam's invasion into Kuwait, though this is Africa rather than the Middle East. Still, I think the inspiration is definitely there. Similar to the previous level, we're running a hit-and-run operation against the dictator supply system. I'll try calling them by their given acronym name, NAPF, but I'll probably forget it. Our insurgency friends are under fire, so we make a detour to help them out. While trying to do that, the helicopter that helped us take out the tank in the last level, well, it was shot down nearby, so now we need to go help them out. The pilot survived and conscious, so we're going in, because the game needs a Black Hawk Down level. Unfortunately, on the way to the town is a tank. Fortunately, we have a laser designator. Destroy the tank, then the bridge, and continue heading to the town. This is where the defensive and offensive forces are clashing. Inside the town, we trade long-distance fighting for some cool CQC action. This is another strength of having larger levels, even if I can't stand the gunplay changes they did. It just does not feel like SOCOM. The bullet spread is really aggressive, and the tracer rounds make it feel even worse. When every time you see a tracer, it's always veering way off to the side. It doesn't feel good to see. It just makes the shooting feel even more random than what it already is. Deeper inside the facility, Jester is doing something. We blow the supplies and bail for another mission complete. While we're making progress against the... what was their acronym again? I already forgot it. The NAPD? LMAO? Anyway, our dictator friend is getting comfy into his new role. The defenders, the CHA, are moving into position to defend their capital, which means we need to buy them more time. How do we do that? Well, we blow up some missile launchers. But not just those, there's also some anti-air vehicles. Although we're only moving through the map and destroying launching sites, I really like this level. I think it plays to the strengths of these larger maps, while still feeling more like classic Socom. You can play the entire thing sneaky, which I did not do. Why? Well, because I'm bad at games. But yeah, it is classic Socom, and that's always nice to see. There's even an underground section for some more variety. The SEALs yearn for the mines. With the launchers destroyed, the CHA are able to set up defensive positions and halt the assault on the capital. Good news for them, bad news for us, because the next level is the worst in the game. There's 3 positions we need to defend: north, center, and west. The enemy will send in troops and even tanks periodically. There's no other way to play this mission other than as a generic shooter. Run from one position, kill all the bad guys who run at you, run to the next, rinse and repeat. It's not difficult, it doesn't take like brain power, it's just really boring and a little long. I'm not a fan. It's super generic. I hate this level. General Mahmoud, our dictator friend, is holed up inside his palace. We infiltrate the compound, taking prisoners on the way, killing everyone on the way. He gets wind of our arrival, but the second in command has had enough.
هل فقدت عقلك؟ ليس أكثر منك يا سيدي. إن أرض المعركة مخضبة بدماء جنودنا، فالجنود يتساقطون هنا وهناك، وأنت تجلس هنا وتضحك. ثروت، كيف تجرؤ أن تتحدث معي بهذه الطريقة؟ هذا التمرد لن يدوم طويلا. أنا قائدك. ما هذا الصوت؟ تلك طائرة الهليكوبتر أيها الأحمق. هل تعتقد أنني سأسمح لهم بأسري؟ لقد خنتنا جميعا. أنت انتظر هنا للترحيب بالأمريكان. سنرى كيف سيكافئونك نظير خيانتك.
Mahmoud escapes, for now, but we still gotta clean up here. Something has happened, a bug maybe, and he won't surrender. Alright, we're gonna restart the checkpoint and let's try that again. I ragged on the checkpoint system earlier, but being a solution for game-breaking bugs isn't something I ever thought of. Just surrender, please! Third time's the charm. Finally, thank you. Mission complete.
HQ, we have Colonel Sarwat in custody.
As luck would have it, Mahmoud's helicopter was shot down nearby as he was escaping. In a level clearly inspired by the real-world Highway of Death, you and your team need to move down the road, engaging hostiles as they appear. Then the game hands us a Humvee with a rocket launcher, because this game really needed more action. It's fun, don't get me wrong, it's just a bit hollow. Also, a tank appears, and it's the dumbest part of the game. I don't know how you play this part without laughing. What has Socom become? The general and his troops have retreated to a nearby town. As we're assaulting it, a nearby truck full of enemy troops appear— never mind. In a hilarious, and what I have to assume was intentional, real-world callback to Saddam Hussein's real capture, your team finds Mahmoud hiding in a hole in the ground. It looks pretty comfy. The dates match up, as Socom 3 was released 2 years after Saddam's capture by American forces, although the game's general claims to have 1 million USD, while Saddam apparently had about 750,000. With the Northern African region complete, we get a nice little message about how we've advanced the cause of freedom in the region. I'm sure after our presence, everyone here lived happily ever after. Now it's time to head to South Asia. An Australian ship has been hijacked by a gang calling itself the Fist and Fire, which, first off, badass name. Sounds like a gang from an 80s movie. Second, the ship was carrying missiles, which is no bueno. So we're moving in to try and locate the ship, and more importantly, the cargo. They really nailed the atmosphere here. It's miserable to be in, but in a good way. It just feels so humid and sticky. This level's kinda fun because I like to pretend I'm in Apocalypse Now. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. The final 5 missions brings us to Poland. A terror group calling itself the New Slavic Order is building WMDs. Okay, before you doubt me, they're like for real this time, like for really real. Like I'm pretty sure they're doing the thing. I think. I don't know, a guy told me that, and I didn't verify, so we'll find out. The first level of these batch of missions is mandatory stealth. Sneak in, plant some bugs, then sneak out. I always prefer stealth to be optional, but for the plot, I get why they had to do it this way and make it mandatory. I'll explain more in a bit. Also, just because it's stealth doesn't mean you can't not kill, or you can kill. You can... Yeah, double negatives confuse me. You know what I mean. But no time for that, because the First Lady of Poland has just been kidnapped. Oh no, my princess is in another castle.
Daję temu pięknemu statkowi imię Kormora. Co to było?
She's being grabbed during a ship christening. I didn't know there were born-again ships, but that's besides the point. We arrive on scene to stop it. Wait, how did we get here so fast? Like literally 10 minutes once it started kicking off. Anyway, this level is full-on Hollywood movie. There's a boat chase through the canals of Poland, and then the streets. The pacing of the game is great, but it's just like one mission will be quiet and slow, and then the next is full-on action. It's kind of impressive, it's just not Socom. So it is great for what it is, but if you were expecting classic Socom, this ain't it. I don't want to be misconstrued or misunderstood. I'm not saying I hate the game, it's just not what I was expecting. So as a generic action game, it's fun. So yeah, I don't mean to be too dour on it.
Polish military units have secured the area, and the First Lady is safe. Mission complete.
In a cool twist, we actually return to the stealth level, but this time it's daytime and it's not stealth. It's a full-on assault. It's ridiculous, it's dumb, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it. Again, not really Socom, but it is a great time. Final 2 missions, and this is it. First, another stealth run to confirm our targets. Second mission, an assault to take them out. Doesn't make much sense to me. Like, why not just kill the targets when we confirm they were there? To pad out the game? I'm nitpicking, I admit. Anyway, the streets are flooded, and I dig both these levels. They take place on the same map, but I'm okay with that. The levels are so short, it's not a bad thing to spend a bit more time in them. Our objectives are to clear out the brewery where they were brewing the WMD gases, and neutralize the 2 heads of the group. One's a doctor, and one's a guy with a name without any vowels. Pro tip, there's a boat here that Command will recommend you use.
I suggest using the boat to do a few loops around the target. Use the machine gun to soften up the area.
Do not use the boat. Don't do it, it's a death trap. There are dudes with RPGs all around. I've tried like 7 times, died each time. No matter which direction I tried, you will get one-shotted. Is that past 10? You'll die. So just go on foot. Kill the 2 baddies, then defend the brewery as waves attack, and that's not only mission complete, but it's game complete.
This is Mark Tepper for GNS. Wrocław became the stage for a pitched battle between Polish military forces and the NSO, the terrorist organization responsible for the Gdansk incident. Polish forces prevailed, according to a statement released by Poland's General Inspector of Armed Forces, and all members of the NSO have now been captured or killed. The General Inspector and the U.S. State Department both deny reports that U.S. forces were involved in the battle. You have been listening to Global News Service, covering the world.
Again, I don't hate this game. I had a fun time. It's not Socom, but it's a fun time. Thanks for hanging out. Consider subscribing if you made it this far. See ya. Love ya.